And now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn over to Martin, a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules and recipes of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted to use the Drupal UI to configure numerous aspects of your Drupal site's look and feel? There's a theme for that. It's called Artisan, and it was created in September 2024 by Alejandro Cabarcos, though recent releases are by CRZDEV, probably Crazy Dev, both of Metadrap. It has a 1.3.8 version available, which supports Drupal 10 and 11. It is actively maintained. In fact, that release was created in the past week. It does have security coverage, and it doesn't technically have documentation, but there is a pretty lengthy README that you get with the theme as well that does include developer notes. It has 7 open issues, 5 of which are bugs, but 3 of those are postponed, which is pretty good considering the site is officially in use by 170 sites according to Drupal.org. Now, after installing the theme, there is a drush command that you can use to generate a subtheme, or you can manually duplicate an included starter kit. You also need to run a couple of npm commands to pull in all the front-end libraries and to build the CSS files. Once you set the subtheme as your site default, you can customize a variety of ways the site looks, including the fonts and weights to use for headings and the default text, the color and padding of various elements, border weights, border radius, and more. The customizations are grouped into tabs. The base tab includes a color palette, base font, and link styling. And additional tabs include page layout, header, responsive, and footer, also breadcrumb, headings, display headings, buttons, forms, and components. Artisan also provides a toggle to expose extra customization options for dark mode. So if you want your site to give users the option to switch back and forth between normal and dark modes, this is extremely powerful. But it does make for some very long configuration pages. You can create and save presets for easy creation of reusable palettes. And there is also a companion Artisan style guide module that provides a page to preview the theme style applied to an extensive list of elements. Last year, I was considering making a more configurable subtheme of Olivero for the Event Platform Initiative, so I was excited to read about Artisan in a Metadrop blog post that we'll include in the show notes. So let's talk about Artisan.
I can't wait to try this out. I feel like without having looked at it, my first impression is that these types of configurable themes existed fairly extensively in 7 and before, and they weren't great for fully custom themes because they made so many assumptions, but they were great for those smaller blog type or even business, like smaller sites where like you needed something to change how it looked compared to other ones. You had some flexibility so they didn't all look like just reskins of Bartik or something like that. But I feel like this hasn't really existed for ages in Drupal, if I'm understanding correctly. I'm actually pretty excited to look at it.
Yeah. So the first thing that I saw when I saw this on the list was like, so can we install this in Drupal CMS? Like, is this gonna work? Is this gonna be a way that we can do a theme? But yeah,
Yeah, I think Experience Builder is meant to be a solution for that longer term, but certainly as a stopgap, I feel like something like Artisan could be really powerful in terms of letting people customize their site without needing to write code. The one gap, I suppose, right now is that you can't actually bring in fonts, but Font Your Face, which unfortunately isn't ready for Drupal 11 yet, potentially could be, the missing piece there for that.
nice. I did a little dance when you said the dark mode stuff, and I've been looking at dark mode and the Bootstrap 5 like feature set for a while. We were trying to implement some of the stuff on the YMCA sites, and there's a huge amount of work that the Bootstrap folks did to get all of that supported, and it looks like this is basically like a really nice UI around all of the Bootstrap 5 variables, which is super, super cool. I was looking to compare the Bootstrap 5 module that apparently has like almost 20,000 installs. And it looks like it might have a lot of those features, but you have to like override all the variables in code. So
Yeah.
this could be a really, really great way for folks to come in who don't want to write a bunch of custom CSS.
Yeah, and you just mentioned Drupal CMS, and where Drupal CMS testing it out if you're in a non-code environment. yeah, that really helps to customize and make it your own, and you have a feel of about what Drupal is about faster. Yeah.
That's a good point. I'm gonna post it in the channel right now and for, Drupal CMS and see what people say. Maybe we'll have something after the show for our patrons to chat about.
Yeah, it looks like I also see that it uses SDCs. I'd be really you know, given the show last week, which was super cool. I always love Brad talking about that stuff, but I'm wondering if they've like built SDCs around all of the Bootstrap components, which would be a huge deal too, because Bootstrap also has a lot of pre-configured components that are very sensibly designed and, you know, work for pretty
Um,
much any application.
so just looking at it really quickly, it looks like they may be integrating those, but most of the SDCs are around Drupal specific things. Like there's one for block, breadcrumb,
Mm,
local tasks, navigation. So they're without spending this episode looking at the actual implementation details of it, it looks like it's more Drupalisms. But if I would expect that they would be mapping those to the Bootstrap variables. That would probably make the most sense to me.
that makes
Um,
sense.
since you mentioned last week's episode, I just want to really quickly mention that there was a question on YouTube about how to integrate SDCs in the UI, and I asked in the components channel, and the resounding uh, response was that you should use UI suite and patterns for kind of integrating SDCs to the UI. And if you want a simpler, less powerful version, the SDC display module gives you the ability to map variables from fields into SDCs. Um, there's ways to do that, and maybe Artisan can be uh, tied into one or two of those, either of those options as well.
And also, bring sort of the SDC question back to Artisan. If you install that Artisan style guide module, it will actually list out any SDCs that it knows about. And then in some cases, it'll say, basically gives you a status of how that render went. So most of them will say it should look great, or some of them will actually talk or mention sort of missing property declarations in the
Oh,
implementation. So it can give you a bit of a guide in terms of where you have some work to do to have your SDCs ready to work with the theme.
oh, very cool.
That's super cool. Martin, you'll be happy to know as I was looking at the code, their last commit was 14 minutes ago. Sorry, 16 minutes ago now. So it is very actively maintained.
Yeah, and they've got I mean, they've got 170 sites. They've only been out for like 5 months for a theme. That's explosive. It's pretty exciting. I'm gonna have to look into this pretty deeply in the next couple weeks. All right. Thanks, Martin. As always, a great module of the week or a theme of the week, I guess we could say. If listeners wanted to get in touch to suggest a module of the week for them, uh, if listeners wanted to get in touch to suggest a module of the week in the future, what's the best way for them to do that?
We're always happy to talk about interesting projects in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as Man Clue on all of the Drupal and social channels as well.